Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another session by Enlightening India. Today, we'll be reading the 10th chapter of the book, Five Go to Smuggler's Stop. Before we get into the 10th chapter, let's see what happened in the ninth one. It was very exciting. The actual mystery sort of began in the ninth chapter. So, let's recall that. During the night, the three boys, Sooty, Julian, and Dick, discover that somebody is there in the tower. There's one more person in the house that they don't know who it is, who that person is. And there's someone in the tower that is blinking a light in a particular rhythm. So it's obviously someone, and he's blinking it towards the sea. Now, when they see this, they're super excited, and being the adventurous kids that they are, they decide this needs to be discovered, this needs to be worked upon. We need to find who that strange person is. So before they go to the tower to actually catch that person, they go into each room. They go into Mr. and Mrs. Lenore's room. They go into Block and Sarah's room, and they peek in, and they see that all of these people are sleeping. So it seems that nobody in the house that who currently lives there can possibly be in the tower. That means there is someone else. We don't know what the story is, but that's the feeling that I'm kind of getting. Maybe it's someone else, maybe it's a stranger. Now, if it's a stranger, then that's a very that's very weird, right? There's somebody in your house that you don't know who's currently living there. So that's another thing. So then these adventurous kids, the boys go to the tower and they see that there indeed is someone. They don't get to see his face, but they follow him back here and there through the dark house. Very scary stuff. And they follow him into Block's room. But they had already seen that Block was sleeping before going into the tower. And this person goes into Block's room and suddenly disappears. Where did he go? I have no clue. We'll probably find the answer to that maybe in the near future. And let's start with chapter 10. Chapter 10. Timmy makes a noise. The three girls were very excited the next day when the boys told them their adventure of the night before. Gracious, said Anne, her eyes wide with surprise. Who can it be signaling like that? And wherever did he go to? Fancy him going into Block's room with Block there in bed. It's very peculiar, said George. So peculiar means strange. And the boys tell the girls about the adventure the very next day in the morning, and they are also very excited about it. I wish you had come and told me and Anne, said George, so that even they could have gone with the boys to the tower. There wasn't time, and anyway, we couldn't have Timmy about at night. He might have flown at the signaler, said Dick. The man must have been signaling to the smugglers, said Julian thoughtfully. So in the last chapter also they had come to the conclusion that maybe that person is signaling to smugglers because there were boats coming to the coast, if you would remember at the end of chapter 9 that the boys had discovered. Maybe was this person showing the way to the smugglers? Was he telling them that yes, it's all clear now you can come? Something along those lines. Let's see. Let me see. Probably they came from France in a ship, came as near to the marsh as they could, waited for a signal to tell them that the coast was clear, probably the signal from the tower, and then waded across the path they knew through the marsh. Each man must have carried a torch to prevent himself from leaving the path and falling into the marsh. So now this is the same hypothesis, this is the same idea that these kids are getting. What might have happened? Smugglers would have come through a ship, they would have waited at sea until this person would have said it's all clear, and then they would have come to the land smuggling goods. Probably criminals, right? If you're doing shady stuff like this in the night, it probably isn't a decent work. It probably isn't correct. That's why you're doing it at night so that you can hide it from others. No doubt there was someone waiting to receive the goods that they brought. Someone at the edge of the marsh below the hill. But who? Said Dick. It can't have been Mr. Barling, who Sooty says is known to be a smuggler, because the signal lights came from our house, not his. It's all very puzzling. Well, we'll do our best to solve the mystery, said George. There's some strange game going on in this very house, with or without your father's knowledge, Sooty. We'll keep a jolly good lookout and see if we can find out what it is. So the kids decide that they will get to the bottom of this mystery. They'll solve it. The kids were at breakfast alone when they discussed the night's adventure. Block came in to see if they had finished at that moment. Anne did not notice him. So the kids are having breakfast, and Block comes in to probably serve food or something. And Anne did not notice him. We know Block is deaf, but still, right? She's probably going to say something that she should not have said. What does Mr. Barling smuggle? She asked Sooty. Immediately, she got a hard kick on her ankle and stared in pain and surprise. Why did you? She began and got another kick, harder still. Then she saw Block. So she was about to get into that whole smuggling idea that the kids wanted to keep to themselves because they don't know who to trust right now, right? They don't know whether it's Block, they don't know if it's Mr. Lenore, they don't know. They don't have answers. So they want to keep the mystery to themselves. And so somebody kicked Anne under the table. Shh, keep quiet. We can't let everyone else hear, right? Maybe Block can read lips. He will then get to know if he's indeed deaf. We just can't risk it. Then she saw Block after getting kicked and she said, "But he's deaf," she said. "He can't hear anything we say." Block began to clear away, his face as usual showing no expression. Sooty glared at Anne. She was upset and cross, so she was angry and she was sad, but said no more. She rubbed her bruised ankle hard. As soon as Blanc went out of the room, she turned on Sooty. "You mean thing! You hurt my ankle like anything. Why shouldn't I say things in front of Block? He's quite deaf," said Anne, her face very red. So Anne was very angry and she said these things to Sooty. Okay, yes. And also ankle is the part where the feet join with the ankle is the very bottommost point of the feet, right? You guys know, right? Yeah. So Sooty had kicked Anne on the ankle. "I know he's supposed to be deaf," said Sooty, "and I think he is, but I saw a funny look come over his face when you asked me what Mr. Barling smuggled, almost as if he had heard what you said and was surprised." "You imagined it," said Anne, crossly, angrily, still rubbing her ankle. "Anyway, don't kick me so hard again. A gentle push with your toe would have been enough. I won't talk in front of Block if you don't want me to, but it's quite plain he's as deaf as a post." So Anne says, if he's deaf, what's the problem, right? And then Sooty tells him that tells her that when she asked that question, a look suddenly came over Block's face, and Sooty observed it. So that's why he had told her. Anne tells, if you don't want me to say in front of him, you could have just, slightly pushed me instead of whacking my ankle. So that's that. "Yes, he's deaf all right," said Dick. "I dropped the plate off the table yesterday by accident, just behind him, and it smashed to bits, if you remember. Well, he didn't jump or turn a hair, as he would have done if he could have heard." So Dick tells them of a scene that happened yesterday. That he was standing right behind Block and he had dropped the plate. Now, if a person could have heard, he would have turned around, right? He would have reacted somehow. He just could not have stood still with such a loud noise, but Block did. "Okay, that's good. All the same, I never trust Block, deaf or not," said Sooty. "I always feel he might read our lips or something. Deaf people can." Do that. They went off to take Timmy for his usual morning walk. Timmy was quite used to being shut in the laundry basket by now and lowered into the pit. So they're doing the usual now, going to Maribel's room and taking the pit to reach the main market directly. In fact, he always jumped straight into the basket as soon as the lid was opened and lay down. That morning, they again met Block, who stared with great interest at the dog. He plainly recognized it as the same dog as before. "This Block," said Julian in a low voice. "Don't drive Timmy off this time. We'll pretend he's a stray who always meets us each morning." So they let Timmy run around them, and when Block came up, they nodded to him and made as if to go on their way. But the man stopped them. "That dog seems to be a friend of yours," he said, in his curious monotone of a voice. So in his curious one, basically one, a voice which always sounds same. There's no surprise elements. There are no. He never gets angry. It's always that very same voice. Oh yes, he goes with us each morning now, said Julian politely. He quite thinks he's a dog. Nice fellow, isn't he? Block stared at Timmy, who growled. Mind you, do not bring that dog into the house, said Block. If you do, Mr. Lenore will have him killed. So Block is also not a very good fellow, and he's just telling the kids, don't get the dog to the house because Mr. Lenore hates dogs. Julian saw George's face beginning to turn red with fury. Fury is anger, and a face turning red means she's getting more angry. He spoke hurriedly. Why should we bring him to the house, Block? Don't be silly. Block, however, did not appear to hear. He gave Timmy a nasty look and went on his way, occasionally turning around to look at the little company of children. Horrid fellow, said George. Horrid means he's bad, right? Yes. So do remember, kids, the words that you don't understand and that if by chance I don't explain, do remember to Google them so that you help, improve your vocabulary. Try to use them in your day-to-day lives. That would help. So George said, how dare he say anything like that? George loves dogs. And somebody saying such a rude thing would obviously upset her. When they got back to Maribel's bedroom that morning, they pulled Timmy up from the pit and let him out of the basket. We'll put him into the secret passage as usual, said George, and I will put some biscuits in with him. I got some nice ones for him this morning, just the sort that he likes, all big and crunchy. So they are back from the walk. They're going to do the same thing. Timmy is going to go into Suti's cupboard, stay there until things simmer down, until they're sure that no one's going to come in, and then he's going to go to George's bedroom to sleep. Right? We know that, right? Yes. But today George has got some great biscuits, big and crunchy, just the biscuits that Timmy likes for him. She went to the door. So they had reached Maribel's room, and she was about to take Timmy to Suti's cupboard. That's where they keep him, right? So she just went to the door of Maribel's room, but just as she was about to unlock it and take Timmy into Suti's room next door, Timmy gave a small growl. So he made a noise that dogs generally make, right? George took her hand away from the door at once. She turned to look at Timmy. Timmy, being the smart dog he is, he's warning us of something here, okay? He was standing stiffly, the hackles of his neck rising up, and he was staring fixedly at the door. So he was getting all, stern, and he was getting all stiff, and he was staring at the door. George put her hand to her lips warningly and whispered, someone's outside. Timmy knows. He has smelt them. Will you all talk loudly and pretend to be playing a game? I'll pop Timmy into the cupboard where the rope ladder is kept. So she decides that since someone is outside and Timmy has warned them, so she told the others, start making some noise, and so that she'll take Timmy to Maribel's cupboard only. Okay, just in case someone comes in. At once, the others began to talk to one another, while George swiftly dragged Timmy to the cupboard, patted him to make him understand he was to be quiet, and shut him in. My turn to deal, said Julian loudly, and took a pack of cards from the top of the chest. So the chest is basically a box, and now the kids were trying to make a noise so that it seems that the kids inside were actually playing and not planning things like where to keep Timmy, how to keep Timmy. So they wanted it to be a normal situation. You won last time, Dick. Bet I will win this time. He dealt swiftly, the others still talking loudly, saying anything that came into their heads. And they began to play Snap. So they began to play some sort of game. I don't know what Snap is. It's a game. They yelled Snap nearly all the time, pretending to be very jolly and hilarious. So hilarious means funny. So and jolly means happy. So the kids were just making noise. Anyone listening outside the door would never guess it was all pretense, that they were just making things up. George, who was watching the door closely, saw that the handle was gradually turning right. Very slowly indeed. Someone meant to open the door without being heard and come in unexpectedly. Mysterious stuff. But the door was locked. Soon the person outside, whoever it was, realized that the door was locked and that the handle slowly turned the other way again. Then it was still. There came no other sound. It was impossible to know if anyone was still outside the door or not, but Timmy would know. Signing to the others to carry on with their shouting and laughing, George let Timmy out of the cupboard. He ran to the door of the room and stood there, sniffing quietly. So now we don't know whether the person has gone away or not. So just to check whether he has gone, George takes Timmy out, takes him to the door, and she tells him, the dog can sniff and tell whether someone is on the other side, right? So Timmy turned and looked at George, his tail wagging. So wagging means the tail is moving up and down when a dog gets happy, right? So this means that there's no one outside. It's all right, said George to the others. There's no one there now. Timmy always knows. We should better quickly take him into your room, Sooty, while the coast is clear. Who could it have been? Do you think snooping outside? So snooping means looking outside, a person just roaming around outside to figure out things. So snooping. Block. I think it was Block, said Sooty. We don't know who it is, but Block. Sooty thinks it's Block. He unlocked the door and peered out. So he looked outside. There was no one in the passage. Sooty tiptoed to the door at the end and looked out there also. He waved to George to tell her it was all right to take Timmy into his room. Soon, Timmy was safely in the secret passage, crunching up his favorite biscuits. He had got quite used to the strange life now and did not mind at all. He knew his way about the passage and had explored other passages that led from it. He was quite at home in the maze of secret ways. Better go and have a dinner now, said Dick. So they took Timmy to the room cupboard where they usually keep him. It's a very big cupboard, okay? So it's good for the dog. Good enough, at least. And then they decide that it's dinner time, let's go have dinner. And Anne, don't go and say anything silly in front of that horrid Block, in case he reads your lips. Of course I shall not, said Anne indignantly. So she surely said, no, no, I won't. I wouldn't have before, but I never thought of him reading my lips. If he does, he's very clever. Soon they were all sitting down to lunch. Block was there, waiting to serve them. Sarah was out for the day and did not appear. Block served them with soup and then went out. So that kids are at the dinner room and they're having food and Block is serving them. Suddenly, to the children's intense surprise and fright, they heard Timmy barking loudly. They jumped violently. Listen, listen, it's Timmy, said Julian. He must be somewhere near here in the secret passage. How weird it sounds, his bark coming muffled and distant like that. But anyone would know it was a dog barking. So the cupboard that they keep him, that leads to that main passage that they took on the first day when they reached here to come inside Sooty's room, right? Yes. And now Timmy must have gone into one of those passages. And I don't know why, but for some reason he's barking. Now, if someone's barking, then people will get to know that there's a dog, right? Let's see what happens. Sooty says, don't say anything at all about the bark in front of Block. Not a word. Pretend not to hear at all if Timmy barks again. What on earth is he barking for? Why is he making the noise? Could there be any reason? It's the bark he uses when he's excited and pleased, said George. So George tells him he's happy, he must have found something. I accept he's chasing a rat. Okay, he always goes right off his head when he sees a rat or a rabbit. There he goes again. Oh dear, I hope he catches the rat quickly and settles down. Block came back at that moment. Timmy had again just stopped barking, but in a minute or two, his doggy voice could be heard once more, very muffled. Woof woof. So Timmy has again started barking, and now Block is also in the room. We know he's deaf, but still, right? It's weird now. Why is he barking so much? Let's see. Julian was watching Block closely. The man went on serving the meat. He said nothing, but looked around at the children intently, as if he wanted to see each child's expression or see if they said anything. Jolly good soup that was today, said Julian cheerfully, looking around at the others. I must say, Sarah is a wonderful cook. I think her ginger buns are gorgeous, said Anne. So the food is very yummy, and the children are just trying to converse, have a normal conversation so that nobody gets to know. No, maybe so that nobody pays attention to the bark. So they're just talking about how good Sarah cooks, especially when the buns are all hot from the oven. But woof woof, said Timmy's voice from far away behind the walls. George, your mother makes the most heavenly fruitcake I ever tasted, said Dick to George, wishing Timmy would be quiet. I do wonder how they are all getting on at Kirin Cottage, and if they have started mending the roof yet. Timmy makes a noise again, joyfully chasing his rat down another bit of passage. Clock served everyone and then silently disappeared. So Timmy had found a rat sort of thing in the passage, and when an animal sees another animal, especially a dog, they start making a lot of noise and running after it, right? Yes, that's what's happening here. And just to deviate from the topic, the children are asking each other all these questions. Julian went to the door to make sure he had gone and was not outside. Who? Block. Yes. I hope old Block is as deaf as a post, he said. I could have sworn I saw a surprised look come into the school eyes of his when Timmy barked. Well, if he could hear him, which I don't believe, said George, he must have been jolly surprised to see us talking away and not paying any attention to a dog barking at all. The others giggled. So the kids were not did not have any expression on the face that a dog was barking, right? So they think that everything should be okay. They kept a sharp ear for Block's return. They heard footsteps after a time and began to pile their plates together for him to take away. The schoolroom door opened, but it was not Block who came in. It was Mr. Lenore. He came in smiling as usual and looked around at the surprised children. Ah, so you are enjoying your dinner and eating it all up like good children, he said. Does blog wait on you properly? So does blog, give you the food and is it yummy? So all these questions. And now Mr. Lenore came into the room. Even bigger of a problem, right? Blog, okay, he does not say anything and he's deaf probably. So, and it does not make a lot of difference. But Mr. Lenore, definitely not deaf, speaks as well. Probably a problem for the kids. Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, said Julian, standing up politely. We are having a very nice time here. We think Sarah is a wonderful cook. So Julian, being the big kid here, he takes up that opportunity to answer all of Mr. Lenore's question, and he tells them how happy he is being here and what a wonderful cook Sarah is, and the food is very yummy. Oh, that's good, said Mr. Lenore. The children waited impatiently for him to go. So they just wanted him to leave because just in case Timmy barked again, he would definitely hear. They were so afraid that Timmy would bark again, but Mr. Lenore seemed in no hurry. And then Timmy barked again. Woof. So, end of chapter 10. This has been a rather, the chapter has left us at a cliffhanger. It's left us at a turn where we would not have wanted to stop the story because Mr. Lenore is in that room and Timmy has barked in the passage. Definitely, Mr. Lenore heard him. And I don't know how the story is going to pan out on what he's going to say to the children and what are the children even going to say back, if in fact they will say anything back. I don't know how it's going to turn out. Let's see. Thank you for joining us for session 10. Looking forward to meeting all of you in chapter 11. Thank you.